And so it's a matter of making sure that we tell the grandmas, las abuelitas, it matters. It affects your child's education. It matters who is in charge. And I always tell folks, if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Jimen Marrero from Urbander, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special episode because we're gearing up and getting ready for November 8th to exercise our vote, our right as Americans. And I am very excited to have gotten a yes from my dear friend Jackie Colón. She's the Southeast Regional Director for the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials, or the NALEO Educational Fund, because she's running around these days making sure to make sure that people are informed, that people exercise their vote, and that we know the numbers. And it's a joy for me, Jackie, to have you with me today. And thank you for making the time. How are you?
Oh, it's my joy to be with you this morning, Sammy. Doing great, as you said, working hard, making sure our Latinos come out to vote.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, talk to me a little bit about your background, because you were an elected official, as well. So you kind of have that very well-rounded lens, right? As a constituent, voter, right? As a Latina that exercises, her vote. Then also, I know that you were the former deputy mayor for Palm Bay and a county commissioner for Brevard County here in Florida. So tell me about your involvement, right, in engaging with people, educating people about the electoral process, and just showing up.
Yes, it's amazing um, what speaking up, what standing up for yourself does. It all started going to a city council, wondering how come our taxes went up. And my friends from church were the ones that said, "Come on, Jackie, find out for us." And here we are, years and years later, listening to you, feeling so humble. I had been the first youngest deputy mayor in the city of Palm Bay, and first Latina, first woman of color, and in the county commission too, being the first person of color. Never mind
Mhm.
just Latina, but it was just amazing. I always say God had a tremendous sense of humor because people couldn't believe I was saying Brevard County. They were like, "Did you say Broward?" Like, no, Brevard County. And it was just an incredible experience, but it allowed me, like you said, to be able to see from a point of view of first as an immigrant, right, who didn't speak a word of English, learning the language, getting an education, which is what our community always strives for, just having a better future, to being a
Mhm.
public servant. And so it's full circle because at El Fondo Educativo NALEO, with NALEO Educational Fund, that's exactly what we focus on. We focus on making sure that legal permanent residents that qualify become United States citizens, able to vote. So that's my story. Like you said, just entire full circle.
That's wonderful. And I know your heart, because I've seen you work in the community and the different partnerships you make, like with the public library. That's how we met, right? With through our friend Wendy Bost and the public libraries in Brevard. And so anyway, I just am so happy to be able to see the kind of impact that the work that you and your entire team, right? Because it's not just Florida, but this is a national organization that really focuses on elevating, the participation of Latinos in the electoral process, and commit to civic engagement, right?
Yes, NALEO Educational Fund has been around for over 45 years. It's amazing to hear how long we've been around. And it's an organization that also professionals, a C4 side, focuses on professional development for our elected officials, from commissioners um, to board members, school board members, mayors, and it's just amazing. And it's over 7,000 um, elected officials that are members of NELA across our country. And then, of course, we have our C3 side, which focuses on naturalization, focuses on voter engagement. We were very involved in redistricting because, as you know, it affects exactly what we're going to be doing this week. And we're excited all about it because early voting has started. I mean, the excitement that I have, folks are like, really? And I'm just sharing with everyone, kind of getting the word out. In Florida, we're already able to start voting.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so important to do so. And so I wanted to have this conversation with you because clearly the work that you do is working because we experienced just since 2018, according to the research, that I've been doing that we've been sharing together also before we recorded, there was a humongous increase in eligible Latino voters just in since 2018, according to Pew Research, and the numbers are pretty incredible, aren't they? I mean, I have here that an estimated 34.5 million Hispanic Americans are eligible to vote this year, making Latinos the fastest growing racial and ethnic group in the U.S. electorate since the last midterm elections. And that's like, to me, that's like, wow, wow, wow. According to Pew, there was a 62% increase in eligible Latino voters in the last 4 years nationwide. And so is that what you see as well?
It's so exciting. I think one of the things that folks have continued to think about is folks like myself, right? That are immigrants, parents of immigrants, immigrant myself, and then we see folks that think about Puerto Ricans, and Puerto Ricans are United States citizens. But there was a group I believe that a lot of folks didn't think about, which is our children. For example, my beautiful daughter Jasmine and my son CJ, they were born here, and they are voters, and so that generation has increased immediately. And so therefore the numbers that we're seeing are not surprising because one out of every five Latino in school, child in school is a Latino, is a Hispanic child. And so these numbers make perfect sense. Now, the key thing too is that the Generation Z, is extremely involved. And that is something that we're extremely proud of. But it takes a lot of organizations such as NALEO Educational Fund and so many wonderful organizations that we have here in our state that have made that happen, going door to door and making sure that our that folks that qualify to vote register and make a difference.
You're absolutely right because just in my family alone too, in the last 4 years, I mean, I'm one of like 42 first cousins. And US born. So I know that so many of my second cousins, right? Once removed, their children are also now in voting age, and I could tell you it's at least in the dozens, right? And so it's remarkable how these numbers also reflect or line up with the numbers that we see from the U.S. Department of Commerce and of Labor, the U.S. Department of Labor, forecasting the workforce. So that 78% of net new workers in the next 10 years are going to be Latinos. Imagine that. And so all of these numbers, I mean, it's like mind-boggling to see the difference in growth, within the Latino community when you see it compared to all other ethnic groups here in the country. Is this something that uh, represents, I can imagine, increased work on your end to get people involved, because with you touch people one at a time many times, right? Through events. And how do you engage? What does that look like on a day to day for Naleo and for you?
Yes, as you can imagine, is speaking to churches, speaking to chambers of commerce, going to academia, going to UCF, Valencia. I mean, it's just amazing being able to touch one life at a time. And they multiply because they're able to go home and discuss. Because we sit on a lot of panels where we're able to discuss the importance, and people think that Latinos are just interested in maybe one particular issue, but it's not true. As I said, we're taxpayers, we're very involved in the community, and we want to be able to know about economic development. We want to know about the roads. We want to make sure that we have the best schools in our community. And so these are issues that we pay close attention to candidates. And I am just so excited because Latinos are engaged. Are engaged. And I think it's just a matter of being able to let them know. For example, here in the state of Florida, we already started voting. Early voting started yesterday. And so, therefore, folks know, oh, really? Yes, is at your convenience. Here it is in Orange County from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. No excuses all day long. On the weekends, too. They're open on the weekends. And so, Latinos, it's just a matter of informing them, giving them the tools that they need, and they take it from there. They don't take their vote for granted. It is something that we're very proud of to be able to do and participate.
I agree. And so do you see, because I mean, I think that it's not as outwardly, right, manifested as I think the numbers represent. I mean, when you look at that increase nationwide of 4.7 million new Latino, eligible voters, that's like staggering, right? The thing is, I feel like we're so busy, bogged down. Like, I'm a business owner, so I'm busy, bogged down, running my business, making sure I put food on the table. Many people hustle two, three jobs. I feel my hustle is like two, three jobs some days, right? And so, I do you see that it's hard to capture people's attention just because we're just so busy contributing, to this country.
Yes, and that falls very much in line with our Latino community. We work very hard. We have two, three jobs. And that's why we really appreciate when the supervisors of elections consider that, keeping it open until 8 o'clock at night, being able to be open Saturday. Some of them are even open on Sundays to be able to make it easier for folks to be able to vote. However, folks like yourselves who are allowing me to come in your program, and folks like yourself who are so active in the community, those are the ones that make a difference because it's word of mouth, reminding ourselves, making sure that we ask our entire family. It's almost like it
Mhm.
starts at home, right? So we kind of have to concentrate from home. All our vote my mail came in, the one for my son, the one for my daughter, and right away, okay, CJ, Jasmine, time to vote. And they've been a part of it since they were born.
Yes.
Jackie was
Yeah.
in kindergarten when I started. It's just amazing to think because you have to lead by example as a parent.
Mhm.
Jazzy was in kindergarten, and by the time I finished being a commissioner, she was graduating from high school. So her entire life, she has been a little public servant. So at home, it's taught we have to lead by example of making sure
Yes.
that we vote. They see us voting, they see us active, and therefore they see it, and our friends and family as well.
Yes, yeah, yes, absolutely. It's like a family affair. I agree. The same thing. I mean, I remember growing up and always going with my dad, to meetings, and they my both my parents worked in Puerto Rico, voting, stations, and just make sure that we saw that it was a tangible thing. It was a real thing to go and exercise your vote. And I think that given how young the voter pool of Latinos is compared with general market, we're going to see a lot of young faces out there, and modeling that type of behavior too, because we bring the kids in tow, right? Who's gonna, as we all go to stand in line and make sure we exercise that voting muscle. It was interesting to me though, the Pew Research also um, was able to share data as to what that age difference is. And they said that the median age of Latino eligible voters is 39, and that's 9 years younger than the median age of all U.S. adult eligible voters, which is 48. And that to me also was like, wow. But I've been following the census numbers, right, in terms of the US population for almost 3 decades now. And that seems to be the difference in general in terms of the mainstream or general market population and then the Latino population. We're always about 10 years younger. Is that something from a eligible voter standpoint that you viewed as well?
Oh, absolutely. And you have to understand your audience, and you have to understand how to reach out to them. Now I'm in Instagram. Pretty soon my children will be doing little TikToks for me, right? And so these are the things that are important because we have to know our audience and what are the things that are important to them. Here in the state of Florida, gun control, it is something that's huge. Our young people are scared. We're hearing about shootings all over our nation. We're also those that are graduating from college. They want to make sure that there are good jobs waiting for them after they get an education. And in my family, we most have master's degree because we know the importance of education so that you're able to, and that is not the norm. But one thing I also am very sensitive about as an immigrant, we say, therefore, the grace of God go I. For those that cannot vote, that's why it's important for us that can vote to go and vote so that we can be a voice, so that voto could count. It's very important to realize that,
Yeah,
especially when we hear all the rhetoric that goes on regarding immigrants. It's like, are you kidding me?
yeah.
When you speak like that, it's unacceptable, and we have to call it out.
Mhm.
But I remind folks, please be that voice for those that cannot vote. Be that voice. Your vote matters.
It's great that that you share that concern and that you do that call to action, because I was going to ask you, what do you tell people that say, ah, eso no es para mí, I'm not going to. I have friends that I'm like, you just, I feel like going to their house and dragging them by the hair, right, to take them, to that day or before, because they're a little bit the apathy is there, right? And so what do you, aside from uh the voicing or being the voice for those that can't, that can't exercise, the vote because they're either undocumented or for whatever reason, right? um how does it impact, how does your vote impact here at the granular level, right, at the local level? Because people think, ah, eso es nacional, that has, or statewide that does it, but how does your vote affect your daily life?
I think it's very important that candidates who are running for office make that type of examples, right? For example, if you're a school board member, they're going to decide how the school, how the principal is going to be affecting to making sure that all our children are being treated with respect, right? Not because of their skin color, and not because if they do not speak the language. I recall as a child in second grade in Ecuador, which is where I was born, the math was so much more advanced than the United States. However, I didn't speak English, so therefore they're like, okay, well, we'll have to put her back. And it was like, no, that was not acceptable because in their mind, they had already assumed, well, she might be not as, might not grasp as fast. But once I
Mhm.
was able to learn the language, just kind of like took off.
Took
And it
off.
was a gifted class ever since after that. And so it's a matter of making sure that we tell the grandmas, las abuelitas, It matters. It affects your child's education. It matters who is in charge. And I always tell folks, if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu. So you can't do that. You have to make sure that you're able to sit there and help with decision making and making
Yes.
sure that we participate. And so grandmas, abuelitas, moms, mothers play a huge role in the selection because they will have those conversations of how does it affect the kind of leadership that you have in your community, the kind of leadership that we expect. I mean, even something as city councils are the bosses of the city manager. The city manager is the one that hires the police chief. And so if the police chief is under that level, then at that point, it will be a reflection of the community, right? So it
Yeah.
affects, especially those of us that have young men, uh,
Mhm.
and and the things that we hear and the things that sometimes bring us pause. And so it affects us in every single way. It affects us at libraries. It affects us mosquito control. After Hurricane Ian, a lot of communities had to make sure that they were sprayed because mosquitoes, and it sounds like it's not something that it's a big deal. Yes, it is, because we want to make sure that they go to all the neighborhoods and for them
Yeah.
to be sprayed and make sure that the health of our community is protected. There are
Yeah.
so many reasons why people have to vote.
Yeah. And these are people that are in charge of budgets and where those budgets go and where the resources go. And so understanding where they stand, it's critical, right? To be able to make the right choice. And
Yes,
yeah.
and with NALEO Educational Fund, we don't tell folks how to vote. We
Mhm.
do share with them that it's important to vote.
Mhm.
And we're Republicans, we're Democrats. But one of the things that I think is really key right now, especially now in this world of social media and in a world of so much information, that a lot of misinformation, a lot of disinformation, a lot of malinformation is happening. So in the NALEO Educational Fund, we even have a campaign completely focusing on misinformation. We never had to do that, but now
Yeah.
we have to do that so that when the person's going to vote, we say to them, did you do your homework? It's not just
Mhm.
something that you got on WhatsApp and you're repeating it. You're repeating misinformation. Where did you get that from? And that is key because they could easily vote in a way that probably goes against their own values based on misinformation.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that also touched my heart, and I was happy to learn, is that you guys work very closely with the supervisors of election and all of that. And there's been um, an effort to increase the number of people that are bilingual at the voting sites, right? Is that during the press conference that I attended just a couple of weeks ago, it was like, oh wow, how cool is that? Has it been difficult to recruit bilingual volunteers and people to support?
Yes, I was so excited to see you at the press conference. We were able to have the supervisor of elections of Orange County, of Lake, of Seminole. It was wonderful having them all work together, speaking to us, speaking to the Latino community. It was for National Voter Registration Day, but as you can see, it was such a nice diversity of a press conference where we had our Muslim community, our Jewish community, our African American community, all of us coming together to discuss the importance of voting. And one of the things that they shared with us was that they need us. They need bilingual poll workers. So NALEO Educational Fund has been focusing such a great deal. As you can imagine, it is really tough to just get poll workers in general. But then
Mhm.
when we have communities where folks are so much comfortable in their native language, in Espanol, it allows someone to be able to ask questions, right? And so these are the things that Naleo Educational Fund focuses a great deal. There's a lot of things that we work in partnership with, but this one's a really important one. We need poll workers. As a matter of fact, please spread the word, folks uh, who are able to come and work that day. They could make up to anywhere from $300 to $350 that day. that
Oh,
day, that
wow.
day. So, no es cierto, with the Latinos, we listen to that. Wait a minute. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
That's like Christmas money. I tell everyone, go get your Christmas money. Sign up and be a poll worker. And they absolutely need bilingual poll workers. But let's say, for example, our young people who sometimes have a little hard time um, knowing both languages, they need poll workers in general.
Yes, absolutely. So efforts are put into place to engage with the Latino voter to ensure that I mean, it's almost like there's no excuse, is what I'm hearing, right? And so could you imagine if all Latino voter, I mean, I feel like it could be like a party all of and of itself, you know? There's a novel idea.
Speaking of parties, we would have in the past, and I'm sure we will for 2024. Well, we actually have parties, Latinos. We have a little bit of music, comida. We're
Yeah,
there. So
yeah,
we kind of like
yeah,
right after the party, let's walk and register to vote or go vote. I saw something where it said, early voting, let's salsa to vote, and that was
yeah,
so. So I mean, you have to really get creative. The things that it might sound a little silly, but not to us, not to
no,
Latinos. A little bit of music, a little bit of us getting together. We love to fellowship, and then being
yes,
able to do something that is really going to affect
y-
you in so many ways. I mean, it affects you with the books that are not being allowed to to read. It affects you in the history of our beautiful country. There's a lot of things in history that are painful, but
yeah,
if you um, if you don't know history, you're going to repeat it. You're going
yes,
to repeat it, and so these
mhm,
are the things that I want my children to know. And one day I'm going to be a grandma, and I'm
mhm,
just like, wait a minute, I don't recall that kind of history. So these are the kinds of things that are important to talk about and to
yeah,
explain that it affects us in every way. It affects women. A lot of things are on the ballot.
mhm,
Just so many things of where we want our community to be engaged in, and to
yeah.
realize their vote absolutely counts.
And children know, right? I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I mean, they stayed home during the pandemic, both of them, my 15-year-old son too. But this year she decided to stay home again. And I said, but the pandemic's kind of like under control, you can and she's like, no, it's because of the shootings, the school shootings. So she still didn't feel right. And so then she's doing, online school because I can't push her, right? I can't create a situation where then she's going to suffer from anxiety and all of this stuff. So I want her to feel confident and safe to go back to school. But then also as a 13-year-old, right, that they're more aware also, they're a little bit more mature when Roe versus Wade, right, got overturned. I was working. She comes in and she's crying, and I'm like, ¿Qué pasó? What's going on? She's 13, for God's sake. Right. And she's crying and she's like, what's going to happen to me if? And I said, well, first off, you're 13. So you don't have to worry about this because, God willing, you're not going to be sexually active until you are ready, right? And you're way too young. But don't worry. Take a deep breath. Mama is going to try to fix this, right? And so I'm going to go vote, and that's so they understand the process. At least in my home, where we're very vocal about that, but they're aware. They're thinking about these things. I mean, social media is out there, so I feel like almost it should be, like a family exercise. And I'm sure a lot of Latino families are similar because we talk about everything, right? At home for the most part. But these are the things, this is a new generation, right? That's coming up, and they're very, they have access to information. And oddly, they're really good at discerning what's BS and what's the real deal, because I have these conversations with my kids, and I'm like, how do you know all this stuff, right? And so anyway, so I have hope. I have hope that people will get out. That word of mouth is as powerful as you and I were just talking, as you were just sharing. Go back home and talk to your family members, right? And because it's a real thing in our community, and I think that we have such wonderful leadership, including you, Jackie. I mean, I've known you for years, and I know how hard you work to get the word out and ensure that everybody that can vote does vote, right? Because otherwise, it's a shame, right, not to be able to take advantage of that, right, that we have in this democracy.
No, and as you mentioned, I was so blessed to have been an elected official as to where I'm able to see what the other side and the decisions that are made. And that's how come I'm able to, I'm so passionate about it. I'm very blessed to be with an organization. NALEO Educational Fund has just, it's an organization where all our colleagues are extremely passionate about the work. It's not about the money. We're so
Yeah.
passionate. We know the things that are important to us. And so I always say that there's no way we can do it by ourselves. And Sammy, you have been key. Everywhere I go, you are there, right there in the front, wanting to know how you can help. I mean, you have helped us in the community from making sure that people have access to good jobs, to making sure that people are protected during COVID. I mean, you have been in the front line, and that's what I'm saying. The Educational Fund cannot do it by themselves. None of these organizations can do it, but together, all of us giving tools to our community, being there, making sure that they have good information, that they're not spreading misinformation. Those are the things that matter. And together, we go really far. All
Yes.
of us work together.
Yes, definitely. So listen, parting words, please, the big call to action to our Latino community and to everyone actually about this electoral cycle.
Yeah. So one of the things that we find is that folks do want to vote. So they want to know, like, where do we call? So call us. Call us at 888. Go ahead and grab una plumita, grab that pen. Call us at 888 839 8682. It's a bilingual, it's a bilingual hotline, eight eight
Mhm.
eight 839 8682. And if you move, we're able to look it up and let you know where you can go vote. We can let you know where all the early voting offices are. So all that good stuff. So just call us. Let us help you.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Jackie. I know it's going to be a massive turnout. I just know it. And I'm excited. I'm really excited to, know you, to know of your work, and to, I mean, you can call me. I'm like literally a text or a phone call away. Anything you need from me, I'm here. Eres mi hermana. I love you. And here we go. November 8th, everybody, please get out and exercise your vote. Okay.
Yes.
Gracias,
Thank
Jackie.
Gracias a ustedes.
Okay. Un beso. Bye.
Yes.
This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.